Judges ready? Opponents ready? True. My time starts now. We today, as the pro side, go for the resolution that, on balance, cryptocurrencies are more beneficial than harmful. Our definitions are, according to Oxford Dictionary, cryptocurrencies are a kind of digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units and currency and verify the transfer of funds, operating independently of a central bank. Our framework is, we believe that whoever side offers more solutions to protect the rights of the people should win today's debate. My first contention is cross-border payments and cutting poverty. To make money with cryptocurrencies, not even necessarily mining, you simply need an electronic device, a smartphone or a pad or a computer, have access to the internet, create an account, and you would be somehow connected to the rest of the globe. It's just that simple. As the World Bank estimated, there were about 1.7 billion people without bank accounts worldwide, meaning they seldom have any contact with actual finance. They live in poverty. But about 4 billion people worldwide have access to the internet. As they estimated, by 2020, there will be 725 million phones in Africa, meaning the technology is growing, and cryptocurrencies can actually have a serious chance of spreading out and cutting world poverty. In fact, we can even go further. Now we have Bitcoin to provide a specific monetary policy, Ethereum to provide a contract platform, Namecoin for distributed naming conventions, and so on. Cryptocurrencies will create a fair world. It gives everyone the opportunity to make money without being discriminated or laughed at. Compared to the harm of criminals blackmailing people, cutting world poverty is much more beneficial. My second contention is cross-border payments and lower transaction fees. It's currently very expensive to transfer money in the developing world. According to World Bank, to send money in countries in sub-Saharan African regions cost an average 9.4% for a $200 transaction. According to World Bank compiled by Dyer, sending money from Angola to Namibia can be subject to a 20% fee. It's also quite common for transfer fees worldwide to be over 15%. But what if an African family needs to send money to one of their children working or going to school in the faraway US? This is very unfair for people who don't live in strong developed countries, but by using Bitcoin, fees are reduced to less than 3%. This could create a platform for people worldwide, rich or poor, to transfer money with almost the same amount of cost. It benefits the people. My third contention is unable to counterfeit. Counterfeit money have been a huge barrier in the way for the government to maintain a peaceful society. Too much counterfeit money may even cause hyperinflation. According to the United States Department of Treasury, an estimated $70 million in counterfeit bills are in circulation, or approximately one note in counterfeits for every 10,000 in genuine currency, with an upper bound of $200 million counterfeit, or one counterfeit per 4,000 genuine notes. As we can see, the problem is huge. With the growth of technology, it's even becoming easier to counterfeit money. But cryptocurrencies are counterfeit-proof. It has the concept of digital signatures, so it would be impossible to fake or even to hack into other people's accounts. This would be highly beneficial to the people, without worrying about holding fake money by accident. We believe the side that cares most about the rights of the people should win. We did this by considering the access to money people get worldwide, getting lower transaction fees, and the decrease of counterfeit money. Therefore, our side should win. Thank you.
Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. We today, as the con side, goes against the resolution that, on balance, cryptocurrencies are more beneficial than harmful. According to Cambridge Dictionary, cryptocurrencies are a digital currency produced by a public network, rather than any government, that uses cryptography to ensure payment safety. Many governments ban or restrict cryptocurrencies. They generally view the risk of cryptocurrencies as more significant than the possible benefits, says Rebecca Nelson, specialist in international trade and finance. My framework is that whoever sides offer more security and convenience shall win this debate. My first contention is that as cryptocurrencies climb in value following the last bear market, criminals are once again trying to defraud cryptocurrency investors. Here are some of the most severe cases. Kevin Hobbs and Lisa Chow are facing civil assets in British Columbia based that they defrauded the investors of no less than $30 million. After launching the VO token, they told their investors that their cryptocurrency will grow substantially in value. They are accused of using investor funds for purchasing SUVs, a townhouse, and gambling. Several Taiwanese men have been accused of defrauding 1,000 investors of $51 million. Investors were promised 335% returns, but they received nothing. Those responsible are facing several years in prison. In response to this scheme, the Taiwanese government has introduced amendments, but they haven't been launched yet. Foreman, who has been accused of stealing no less than $71.6 million as part of an ICO scam. To attract investors, it is said that they inflated the price of his cryptocurrency and claimed that the royal family of Dubai supported his project. Note that though the criminals were caught, the money wasn't given back to the owners because the government doesn't have the responsibility to give it back. With traditional currencies, 70.34% of frauds and scams cases were solved and the money was given back by the authority. A recent study prepared by ICO advisory firm Status Group revealed that more than 80% of initial coin offerings, ICOs, conducted in 2017 were identified as scams, and the number would only grow. There's no getting away from the fact that what makes cryptocurrencies appealing to many is also what makes them a liability. The decentralization of tokens means they do not have an attributor, such as FOS. According to FCA, investment crypto asset scams are on the rise. The number of incidents reported to the watchdog more than tripled last year to reach 1,800, with victims losing an average of $14,600 to each scam. Fraudsters target consumers through adverts on social media that link to professional-looking websites, which then encourage them to invest using cryptocurrencies or traditional money, but never transfer expected funds, or they ask the victim for more money to do so. My second contention is that cryptocurrencies have been the source of theft, funding violence, and kidnappings. A Ukrainian nuclear power plant worker was forced to pay for stolen electricity after he set up an illegal Bitcoin mining operation at the station. The elite operation came to light when the SBU searched the faculty last month and uncovered computer equipment set up to mine cryptocurrency. Mining cryptocurrencies is an expensive drain on power as it often requires vast computer servers to solve complex puzzles in exchange for virtual coins. According to papers filed with the Central District Court in the city of Malkoy, security agents believe details of 2,850 megawatts of planned security arrangements, which are considered state secret in Ukraine, could have been leaked when the computers were connected to the internet. In a nutshell, cryptocurrencies can benefit neither individuals nor the country as a whole. Thus, they aren't more beneficial than harmful. Thank you.
Thank you. Other class 5?
30 seconds per
Okay, loud. Time up.
So in your constructive speech, you mentioned that cryptocurrencies can have a lot of security problems, but it can actually protect the privacy of the people because now the banks know all of the information of the citizens of the country. So they're basically standing naked in front of the banks. So how do you explain that?
So I'm supposing that you're talking about anonymity, right? This also allows fraudsters and drug dealers to do their work.
What do you mean?
I mean that if it is anonymous, it is hard for the police to trace them.
Yes.
Okay, so now you admit that this cryptocurrency is not more beneficial and harmful in this case. Now I want to ask you a question. In your speech, you mentioned that cryptocurrency is unable to be counterfeited, but this doesn't make much of a difference because with traditional currencies, it is also hard to counterfeit.
It is not very hard to counterfeit. With the growth of technology, now counterfeit money can be just as realistic as the real money. So, especially in my constructive speech, I also mentioned that there are 70 million, as the World Bank estimated, there are $70 million of counterfeit money are in circulation. So how do you explain that?
But there are machines now that can check if the money is real or not. If you think that the crooks technology can develop, so will the governments.
This is not a matter of if it can do that. It's a matter of when. Because the technology is growing. So you cannot deny that the usual paper currency will be meant to be easier to counterfeit. Now I want to ask about another question. how do you respond in that in my constructive speech, I mentioned that cryptocurrencies can spread out and cut poverty, since, as the World Bank estimated, there will be 725 million phones in Africa by 2020.
Well, it doesn't exist now, does it? We're talking about now and here. It's not some faraway things in the future. I mean,
But you can't deny that technology is growing, and if technology grows, that can happen one day.
anything could happen, but we are talking about here and now. As the resolution has said, cryptocurrencies are more beneficial than harmful.
Yes, but this sort of data is actually predicting 2020, which is 3 months away.
But this is getting away from the topic. We are talking about here and now. Now, I want to ask you a question. In your speech, you mentioned that transaction fees are lower and you won't lose money in the process of sending money. But actually, the value of Bitcoin changes almost every second, and the value of cryptocurrencies can most likely will change from the moment you are sending it to when the receiver is receiving.
But that doesn't have anything to do with transaction fees that you're.
No, you were talking about with lower. You mean that with lower transaction fees, the money will be saved, but it wouldn't. The money might drop or rise.
Thank you. For the rebuttal chance.
Okay, so judges ready? Okay, opponents ready? Okay, my time starts now. So in your previous speeches, you have actually talked about that. So you need government supervision. But what if the governments are corrupt, like the governments of Zimbabwe and Venezuela, or there are so many other examples? So actually your point doesn't stand. And another one is that so if we use cryptocurrencies, the police cannot track the criminals. But in most countries, in most like Western countries or some of the countries, there is a large proportion of like policemen or judges. Well, maybe not just like policemen or officers that has a discrimination toward races. So what if the criminals are actually criminals? So that is very unfair, and so cryptocurrency can like avoid them from being be treated unfairly. So I'm now going to talk about some of the very good advantages of cryptocurrencies. So for cryptocurrencies, for cryptocurrencies actually is very effective. Like the fluctuation price, like every second that you have mentioned in a previous one, but it is actually the fluctuating price. It can actually like boost the economy, and also stock is also in a very big fluctuating price. And so why is stock like more beneficial than harmful, but cryptocurrency is more harmful than beneficial? And also, it is very effective, as I said, because like right now, most of the major cryptocurrencies can deal with like 1,000 to 2,000 transactions per second, which means that it just happened in 1 millisecond, and the price of cryptocurrencies will not fluctuate so fast in milliseconds, which means that it will not cause a gap between the receiver and the sender. Which in centralized currencies, the exchange between for example CNY and USD is fluctuating every day, and a large amount of transaction may hold up to 5 to 6 days, which is causing a very big gap between the sender and the receiver. And also it is very anonymous, and as I said in my previous rebuttals, it can avoid corrupt governments and corrupt or discriminating policemen. And also it's very safe realistically, like physically. Because when a fire consumes your house or other natural disasters cause your property loss, all of your cryptocurrencies are stored on a cloud, but all of your bank cards or your cashes may be burnt or been rushed away by waters. Then it will cause you a lot of loss, which may not happen in cryptocurrencies. And also human cost problems versus, for example, like robbery. But if all of your money is stored on a cloud and only you yourself knows the private key inside your brain, then the robbers cannot get any of your money. So that's why we believe cryptocurrency is more beneficial than harmful, and we're considering on people's rights and benefits. So that therefore we should win this debate. Thank you.
Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. So, as the second speaker of the comm bench, I'm here to give my rebuttal speech. So let's look at our opponent's speech. So their first contention is about cutting poverty. But the thing with poverty, well, even if they have the cell phones, it still won't work because what they need is education. If you just have a bunch of bank accounts, it won't work at all because they don't have any money to store. And now, let's look at their second contention. Their second contention is about the lower transaction fees. Well, I think that, cryptocurrency is like this. So each block only has 1 M of the bytes, and if all the bytes are used up, they would have to go to the next block and wait another 10 minutes in order to get their trades written down. And if there are more trades coming in, they will have to keep waiting and waiting. And I think that this is very, very unspeedy and it's very inconvenient. And now let's look at their third contention. So their third contention is about counterfeiting money. And then first of all, I think that they're making a logical fallacy here. They're talking about the growth of tech. But right now, we're talking about now instead of the future. So actually, they're just saying a bunch of empty stuff about the future. And plus, I think if in the future there is growing tech, I believe that the government also has growing tech. So that means the government will also be able to fight the criminals. And now, let's look at the crossfire. So they were talking about privacy, right? And then we already explained that this privacy can help the criminals because it is anonymous. And then they even agreed about it. And we raised the question of counterfeit money, and then they used tech to solve it. But as I have explained, well, this contention is actually useless. And then look at another one of the crossfire. They talk about how to cut poverty in Africa, but as I have explained, this is in the future. And now let's look at their rebuttal speech. So they were talking about how governments are corrupted, but actually, I don't think so. Well, there are some corrupted government, but not every one of those governments are corrupted. You cannot just sacrifice all the good government's power in order to save those tiny governments like Zimbabwe. I mean, there's only one Zimbabwe in this world, right? And plus, there's another thing. If you use cryptocurrency, it will dethrone the dollar. And once the dollar is dethroned, the U.S. no longer have the power to give sanctions to the corrupted government. If not for the U.S., we would probably be living inside a world with nuclear weapons by DPRK or Iran. And let's look at another one of their rebuttals. They were talking about natural disasters. But actually, in natural disasters, there will be no electricity. And no electricity means you can't use cryptocurrencies either because there are no computer power. Now let's go back to our framework and our contentions. We were talking about how cryptocurrencies can cause scams and crimes, and how it can support violence and kidnapping. And we were saying that fiat currency, the government actually has the responsibility, and they have the power to give the money back to you. But even if you caught the criminals when they're using cryptocurrency, you still cannot have the money. You still cannot have the money back because the government has absolutely no responsibility. This is according to the anonymous feature of cryptocurrencies. And now let's look at our framework. Our framework is about security, and I believe that for us, cryptocurrencies are not good at all for security. And this is exactly why I think that the cost outweighs the benefit. And that is why you should vote for us. Thank you.
For the crossfire,
15 seconds per turn.
Okay, so you have said that corrupt governments, you have said that there's only one Zimbabwe, there's only one Venezuela in the world. But actually, the value of cryptocurrency is decided by the whole world, and which include many strong governments. As you said, there's only a little weak governments. So actually, we can help the people inside those governments have a better life on economy. How to explain that?
Okay, so now, well, I think it's like this, really. So when we're using cryptocurrency, right? So instead of just helping the little governments, we are actually sacrificing the power of the big governments. And actually, if you look at the world map, there are many powerful governments out there.
Yeah, and just as you said, you're helping us. There's so many strong governments out there, and we can just they can decide the value of cryptocurrencies, and the people inside those.
But how can they decide the value of cryptocurrencies?
Because there are so many people inside, and the government is so strong, so big. So actually, the people who use it can actually they can comprehensively decide the value, which means that people living in the poor countries and those people living under the restriction of corrupt governments will actually will prosper.
Well, actually, there is a limited amount of cryptocurrency in this world. So actually, the value will go higher and higher, which means it is deflationary. So there is no way that you can change it. Okay, now let me ask you a question. So you were talking about how governments are corrupted, and you were talking about how we should save those tiny governments. But as I have said, well, if you use cryptocurrencies...
We are not saying that we need to save those tiny governments. We are saying that we need to save the people under the restriction of those corrupt governments.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was trying to say right now. So the thing is, as I have stated in my rebuttal speech, if you dethrone the dollar and the U.S. will no longer have the power, what will you do? Because it won't give citizens...
America is not the country who is doing good right now, and it is also not the country that you have mentioned before that banned nuclear weapons. And it also
I have mentioned America actually, and plus, well, if not for the U.S., we will live in a world with nuclear weapons because
America now wanted to have their nuclear power back. That's why they quit the treaty. And America is not the country that have banned nuclear weapons.
What do you think will happen if DPRK and Iran has nuclear weapons?
We are not discussing about nuclear weapons. We're discussing about cryptocurrency.
But
now let me ask you a question.
What I'm trying to say right now, okay, so
let me ask you a question. You have mentioned in your previous rebuttal speech that the people in Africa do not have electricity. But according
no, I did not say that.
Of course you did.
I didn't. You mixed it up.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, opponents.
Please give us 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Come on, 30 seconds per time. Okay, we're ready. Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. I'm the third speaker from the cause side, and I'm here to give my summary speech.
We are the first speaking team.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Judges ready? Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. So there are basically 4 clashes in today's debate. The first clash is about the counterfeit money problem. So our opponents keep saying again and again that money we're using today is very hard to counterfeit. But as the technology is growing, it is unavoidable that someday it will be really easy to counterfeit those money. And the second clash is about cutting poverty. So our opponents keep saying that we're talking future fantasy, but actually the example we raised about the African phones is actually predicting 2020, which is 3 months away. So we're not actually committing fantasy and saying about the future. And so it means the opponents are actually avoiding this point. And the third clash is about the corrupt governments. So our opponents said that there are only one Venezuela and one Zimbabwe in the world, so we should sort of ignore them. But actually, our goal here is to help the entire human race, and including the people in Venezuela and the people in Zimbabwe. So our opponents are actually not considering for the whole human race. And the fourth clash is the education problem. So our opponents said that we need to increase Africans' education first before giving them a cryptocurrency account. But actually, what we should focus on is the growth of technology. With the growth of technology, there also comes growth of education, because now we have Khan Academy online, on the internet, which the African people can't have contact to the internet. So actually, with the growth of tech, also means the growth of education, which is helping our point. And for our opponent's information, we also want to add that the US did not ban nuclear fallacy. It did not ban nuclear usage, which our opponents mentioned in their debate. So at some point, they are frauding us. So we believe that our side should win today's debate. Thank you.
Judges ready? Opponents ready? My time starts now. I'm the third speaker for the con side, and I am here to give my summary speech. There are some main clashes in today's debate, and I think that we've won all of them. Here's why. The first main clash is about having connection to the world. They kept on saying that you can somehow be connected to the world, but this obviously leads to the connection to like black markets. For example, the Silk Road. Now it is very easy to go on the Silk Road, and on the Silk Road you can just about purchase anything that is illegal, like cocaine, forged passports, and all that. So with connection to the world comes connection to drug dealers and black markets. So we've obviously won that clash. Another clash is about the lower transaction fees. I will sum it up by saying that your money won't be lost when you are transacting it to the other person. But think about it. As the second speaker for our side has said before, there are only so much bytes in a blockchain, and if you want to, and if all of the bytes in a blockchain are used up, you have to move on to the second block. And when you move on to the second block, that takes time. And in that 10 minutes, the value of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency could rise and fall in a big way. That is because it is highly volatile. So we've obviously won that clash. Also, they kept on saying that it's unable to counterfeit, and they didn't get our point of saying that even if the criminals' technology would grow, the government's technology would also grow. So that doesn't make much of a difference. So we've won that. Oh, we've also won that clash. About the bad governments, they say that cryptocurrency can provide sanctions to the countries with corrupted governments. But you can't deny that there are a lot of countries in the world with good governments. And if a lot of people living in the corrupted governments use cryptocurrencies, this will dethrone the dollar, and America can provide sanctions to a lot of countries, which will make even more chaos. So that doesn't solve any problems. That creates even more problems. And also, the other side that said that cryptocurrency provides a degree of anonymity that isn't rivaled by traditional money. I do not question that. But with anonymity comes crime. So crimes can be committed in traditional money too. But with those, they can at least be tracked down easily. And with cryptocurrencies, first, they are very hard to track down. And second, even when they are tracked down, the government has absolutely no responsibility in giving the money back to the owner. So the money is lost forever. Even if the criminal is caught, the money is lost forever. So this is obviously one thing that is very bad about cryptocurrencies, and we've won that clash. So all in all, we think that we've won all the main clashes today, and thus shall win this debate. Thank you. 30 seconds prep time.
So our time should start now. Okay. So.